I'll just go straight to the notebook. So you guys will, since you're only 7, I think we can capitalize on that and make sure that everyone's time is not wasted. I'll just be patient enough, unless you guys want me just to skim through and nisonge mbele haraka haraka, since these things are it's known to you, right? Okay. There are several ways of doing NLP tasks. Yeah, let me share my screen before I start. Share screen. There are several techniques for running NLP tasks, and based on that data, you guys, before I proceed, I'll assume that you guys have been able to download the data. I don't want to leave anyone behind. Anyone who has not downloaded the data, please just let me know.
Maybe if you can share the data on the chat.
Okay.
I'm unable to download.
Oh, you're able to download?
I'm unable, yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
So I put it on WhatsApp?
Yeah. You can share the link on the chat.
Okay, the link, the cargo link for downloading.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just do that. Chat. Can you see it?
For me, I can see it.
Okay. And Henry? There's someone else who mentioned that they had not seen it.
Ayub.
Yes?
I can see it, but when I try to when I click the link, it tells me first I should sign up.
Oh, you should sign up on Kaggle. Okay, all right. Let me see. From chat, can someone share text? Or I share it on? Yeah, I can share a file. Okay, let me share the file. Books. This is session 4. Datasets. Open. There you go. It's uploading. Just let me know if. Okay, it's still uploading. For those guys who have difficulty downloading it from Kaggle, as we waited to upload, let me just describe. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
You can see.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just describe the data. It has several columns. Before you get there, I was mentioning that there are several libraries or you come across for when you're doing an NLP task. The best to introduce you to NLP, I normally find it TextBlob. There's one called TextBlob. It's like a lighter library on top of the most common one, Python library called NLTK. Yeah, but it also has its own disadvantages, as I'll mention lately. We have now TextBlob, NLTK, and there's another one called Spacey. We won't cover Spacey today, but we'll most likely do it in subsequent sessions. Yeah. So the next NLP session will be driven by Brian and Eunice. Maybe after that is when we will cover Spacey, as they continue to show us their model. Okay. So TextBlob has several. You can do it. You can use it to do a lot of NLP tasks, sentiment analysis. You can use it for spell checks, you can use it. I'm going to highlight quite a number of them. So this data, we have a data set that has several columns, the clothing ID, age, title, review task. Our main focus will be on review text, but nothing is preventing you on looking at this data and trying to visualize it, depending on maybe you want to see which age which age reviews text. Is there a bias in terms of positive reviews with regards to age? You can decide how you want to visualize this. So this notebook together with the dataset will be made available to you guys, but for the focus for today is going to be review text. I've mentioned to you guys three tools that can be used: Spacey, NLTK, TextBlob. There's another one that is called Stanford NLP. We won't use it, Stanford Core NLP. Maybe this would cover in subsequent sessions. Yeah. As I mentioned today, the focus is going to be largely TextBlob. You don't have to type all this. You will start typing when we start checking out the workbench, like now when we start importing. All right, some of the features that we'll go through is how to do parts of speech tagging. I mentioned this during the theory class in previous sessions. The sessions are recorded, and if you don't have the recordings, you can also reach out to me. I can always share the link where you can attend. You can actually walk through and try and understand where we've come from. This is session 4, so we have 3 more sessions on NLP. Noun phrase extraction, how are we going to extract nouns from within a sentence? And how are we going to do sentiment analysis? Like now, determine whether a sentiment is positive or negative. Are we going to be doing classification? Very, very basic classification using the TextBlob classifiers. So TextBlob has its own classifiers that you can actually use to tag, and I will also mention how we can actually use it to label our text and come up with some pretty awesome solutions from Twitter data. Brian gave me a tip that he had something that we will, but I will mention this towards the end of the class. All right. Language translation and detection. TextBlob, you can also use it to translate language. I'll just write a script for that. You'll see it and how to detect the language. But now the limitation is the number of libraries that TextBlob supports. The local languages are not supported in TextBlob. So it cannot detect, for instance, Swahili. Spell check, like now spell corrections. We'll also see code for that. Tokenizing, I know Dennis, you've been following through our previous classes, and you've actually tried some tasks on this. We will also revisit this. Tokenizing, lemmatization, word phrases, engrams, word inflection, singularisation, and pluralisation. And we won't cover in detail add new models and WordNet integration. All right. Now, before we start, the best way, as I've always mentioned, the best way to learn something is by solving a problem. I can never say this enough. And when you're solving a problem, let's look at two statements. I know, Brian, we've had this discussion with you offline when we had a discussion. I'll just repeat it for the sake of the others. If you are asked as an ML engineer, what have you done? You'll say, I've done a sentiment analysis, I've done fraud check, I've built a fraud model, fraud detection model, I've built a sales forecasting model. All right, and then your competition comes in. You walk into an interview, that is the answer you give. You list all the models you've done. Now your competition, or the person you're attending the interview with, comes in and they are asked the same question, and the guy says that let's now, we are working on sentiment analysis. Let's take for instance, sentiment analysis as now our scope of two people having done the same problem, but when they're asked, they explain it differently. You're asked, you tell them I've done sentiment analysis, and when I was doing that, I used NLTK, a Stanford call NLP, I used TextBlob. You mentioned all the, I know how to tokenize, I know how to lemmatize. You mentioned all that, okay? And which you don't leave out any detail. The second person comes and is asked, I built a tool I call a negameter. So this negameter it extracts tweets from, it extracts conversation from Twitter, and it ranks who is the most negative person of the day. So we have all Kenyans in Twitter, talking in Twitter, but who is the most negative? Who always just looks at, who always just says negative, as in this guy is just pessimist, and who is the most optimist person in Kenya? So there is nowhere to get this unless a survey was done, and those survey would be biased. But if you go and mine data for the past like 3 months, and then you say that I have a negameter, this negameter this is what it does. Yeah, I can tell you who's the most optimist person in Nairobi or in Kenya, and who's the most pessimist person in Nairobi and Kenya. So they'll be like, okay, how did you do that? Very few people would relate sentiment analysis with that problem. They'll be like, okay, now that is out of this world. How did you do that? And then he said, yeah, it's basically sentiment analysis. I mine data from that, and then who is most likely to resonate with the interviewers? It's definitely this other person who started explaining from the problem statement. Yeah. So what they're offering, they're not offering a model, they're offering a solution, and the solution will tell you who's the most optimist person. You can even drill down and say who's the most optimist politician. Those are things that people would want. Now, if that is a journey, we could all adopt that as our class project as we learn NLP, because I don't see anything that is preventing us from doing that. Brian has a scrapper, and Brian, yesterday you were asking me about some of the things we can do. That is just one, and you guys at the end of this session, you could also brief. We could also brainstorm what other things we could scrap and solve it as a group as we move forward. I remember David Mombali mentioned in previous class that can we look at a problem, because most of the data in Kaggle is clean data. But can we mine data as raw as it is, struggle with it, go through data cleaning process and provide a solution? This is just one of them. So I'm hoping at the end of today's session, we could identify three or four possible NLP projects that we will push through together, either in groups, and we see it through to the end, and then make shout outs from Twitter. That is, we create our own problem, right? Having said that, I think you guys, while I was talking, you were typing, unless, I think Carol won't have a problem with this, because ladies are normally very good in multitasking, and this class is so biased. Today we have only one lady. Hey, Carol.
Okay.
I had not noticed that, but let's hope that the ladies are on their way. Yeah. And the way,
Yeah.
I wish the ladies would know how the top companies are pushing for ladies. Like now, if you're a lady, the fact that you're just a lady, and by the way, as when you're nafungwa roho, please be typing. Be typing. Okay. If you are a lady, and the fact that you're doing machine learning and you are as good as your competitor who's male, there is 80% likelihood that you will be selected just because you're a lady. That is, take it from me. take it from me. So if you know a lady somewhere, always encourage them to reach out and do some of these things because the space is favorable to them. But that should not let the men be discouraged. The men, the trick is you try and you try and acquire several skills. Yeah. So while a lady would side by side with you, there are other reasons why you can actually stand out. And one of the obvious reasons that has come out in the past is you acquire several skills. You don't just focus as I'm a data scientist period, or I'm a machine learning engineer period, or I'm a programmer period. That will work against you. So as you move forward, try and acquire some of these small skills and deliver solution end to end. Okay?
Ayub,
Yes, tell me.
in which side are you?
I'm on all sides. I'm split right in the middle.
Which side? No one likes lukewarm. It's fine, I understand. Okay.
Okay, so I think on the first cell, you guys can see the cell. We're importing the libraries, and we are going to be a lot of focus on the TextBlob. We also have NLTK. We have one that is called SciPy. We won't use it. Plotly is for plotting, for visualization. All right. Has anyone not finished the cell that you're seeing? Kitu nitafanya?
Yeah, it's me. I'm a writer.
Sorry? Because I don't want to leave anyone behind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste the code. So ikikupata katikati, you can, to work with me, you can just copy paste. You can just copy paste. We move together, but you create time and go through what's going on. Yeah. So that is the first cell. I've pasted it in chat. Please copy paste that as we move to the next cell. 2 hours is very short for us guys to go through this exclusively while you guys are typing. So I hope you'll bear with me. But typing normally helps. There are people struggling with, without mentioning names, there are people struggling with notebooks that they have that are working. So you're given an open book, but because you're typing, you cannot move beyond a certain cell. That is good for one thing, because you will struggle and find the answer. And normally the answer is either a quote somewhere, a full stop in the wrong place, you've named the variable wrongly. That is how you learn. So it's an open book, but you fail the exam, which is a good thing. Yeah. So typing is always the most recommended, not copy pasting. But for the sake of this class, we will just copy paste. So cell number 2 is where we are importing the data set. Yeah. And then cell number 3, we are exploring the data set. Yeah. Cell number 3, we are exploring the data set. Exploration just gives you an idea of what kind of data exists there. Like now, the verbatims, you're able to see the verbatims. You're able to skim through what columns are there, what columns are missing. As I move cell by cell, I'm actually pasting the cells so that I scroll down. Okay, as you can see, we have this we've covered before. We have sample, we have head, we have tail. So when you want to see the top records, you use head. The bottom records, you use tail. And sample is just a mixer. It randomly picks a variety. Now, the code for shape is just telling you how many rows and columns do you have in your data set. Yeah, it's normally important, especially when you want to see, if you want to see if you need to add something like view all columns, there is always a pandas feature that if you have like say 500 columns, pandas, Jupyter normally hides some, but if you want to view all of them, once you see the shape, it will tell you whether or not to use that pandas feature. Yeah, same to the rows. Okay, and then there is a clothing info. Info just describes the properties of your columns. Like now, is it character? Is it date? Is it do you have null values? Are you supposed to resolve null values? Are there columns that you need to rename or even drop entirely because they don't mean anything, like this one that I've highlighted? You see this one has a lot of null values. Is it necessary? Should you drop it? What should you do? So info gives you that kind of information because as per the previous classes, we have learned that it is important to handle null values. Yeah, so if you're not in any previous classes, like I said, find time to play the previous videos. They're very, very helpful. I know they're long because I record all the sessions. It's not like I generate snips. All right, we are repeating the sample again after we've dropped a column. So this one here is to drop the column title. I never found it necessary, as well as this one. This one, I don't need that column, so I dropped it. And the next one is now I'm just checking through the column that have actually been dropped using the command sample. Yeah. Okay. This one, I want to only pick records that do not have null in the review text. So I don't want the review text column to have any nulls. So if you look at the info, like I've shown here, we have review text 22,641, but we have some other records that the total number of records is 23,486. So we have nulls in the review text. Some people chose to just keep quiet. So we don't want those people. We don't want them because we want to do analysis of their sentiments. Okay. Up to there, am I too fast? Are we together? Or if there's any comment or someone wants to say anything, please go ahead. All right. So I'll assume that we are good. Feel free to interrupt me anytime you feel like either moving fast or you have any question or any comment. Okay, now once we remove that, we want to check the non-null values. So our data frame here has no null values in the review text. The others, they can have null values, but it's not, it depends on the analysis that you want. So this code here is to pre-process. It's like now doing some form of data cleaning. Removing unwanted characters, yeah. So that code, that is what it does. Oops. I wanted to paste it there so you guys can paste and run the cell. Okay. The next cell is you're actually this code here. What it does, you're calling this this function and passing the value in that data frame column to that process, and for each of it, it is replacing it. So the new value in that column, will not have some of these things that you want to remove. That is what it does. So this is how you basically call your function. There are several ways of calling the function. This is just one of them. You write a function within Jupyter Notebook. You write a function within Jupyter Notebook, and then you let me mute Caro. Okay. You write a function within Jupyter Notebook and then you call it. This is one of the ways of calling it. Yeah. All right. Cell number 13. Now, what we want to do, this is the first time we are coming across, what is it called? TextBlob, okay? Excuse me. So what this does, the TextBlob it's a library that you pass to it some text. And then you can extract the sentiment. And in this particular case, we are interested in polarity. As I will explain later in the same notebook, a sentiment of a certain text from TextBlob normally returns two things. It returns the polarity and the subjectivity. I'll define what all those are and how it can help us in our project moving forward, especially when it comes to labeling and tagging the data. I'll just brief this when we are discussing on what problem to solve moving forward. We can come up with, nothing is restricting us from splitting it into 3 or 4 projects, doing different things, but in the process learning NLP, okay? All right, when you want to check the subjectivity, now this one, it extracts the polarity of that text and stores it in a new column we are creating here called polarity. And we can do the same thing for subjectivity, yeah? We extract the subjectivity of that text and we store it in a column called subjectivity. The length, we also do the length. We want to check for each of the review text, can we extract the length of the text? Yeah. So we create a review length. Yeah. And then the same thing to count, word count. How many words form that text? So that we can look at, on average, what's the number of words that form a text. Yeah. This should normally happen after you've done your pre-processing, like now cleaning the way we've done it. All right, so we've been creating new columns: polarity, subjectivity, review length, and word count. This we can use to now give deeper study on the distribution of those either word count, polarity, and subjectivity. Yeah, and we could now drive some analysis. Some of these things was covered by Brian and Eunice in the previous session. Again, that session was also shared, the link. Together, Brian also shared the notebook, okay? All right. The next one, we want to check, just to check and pull through the messages that have strong polarity. So basically, polarity just tells you how positive or negative a sentence is. Positive towards 1, negative towards 0, or rather from 0 below, because polarity normally ranges from -1 to 1. So when it's around 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, it's actually neutral, neutral polarity. So you want to check the text. We want to extract the text that has that polarity. I think at some point I stopped copy pasting. But I think the code you guys have the same. Did I copy this polarity? Not yet. Am I moving so fast?
You didn't copy
the polarity.
That one. Yeah, that one.
So from
And
this
the next
point,
one.
okay, quickly copy that. There you go. That is for cell number 12. The next one. There's the next one. Most of these were covered by Brian and Eunice, but now using a different library. Brian, were you using TextBlob?
No, we weren't using TextBlob.
Oh, okay, okay. So that is the command one. Sorting data. This is for you want to view. Yeah, now this is where we were. This code, it gives you, it extracts from the dataset string that are of high polarity, basically positive strings. So you could see samples that have been extracted. Beautiful dress. The pics online do not do any justice. I got compliments all day. Fits perfect. Perfect way to add warmth in transition weather. The material is great. Got them in both colors and went with a tall size for one. Everyone compliments them. These are so comfy. Mom of 2 boys on the go. Great for running around, and then can the dress up for a night out on the town. Anyway, so those are some of the positive sentiments. We could also check the positive that have high polarity. Polarity actually 1. So if you want to extract the specific ones, here they are. Yeah. Okay. Filter for neutral polarity. So plotting data, polarity is neutral. So neutral is anything 0 point something, 0. Now check this out. Okay, let me copy this. Did I copy the last one? Yeah, that one I copied. Let me copy this one for positive sample. And then for neutral, we extract the neutral values. We extract them and store them in a variable. And then we look through this variable to view them. We look through the variable. The variable is called neutral values. And then we check them out. Now the neutral values, let's go through them. Looking forward to wearing this on a beach holiday. The sales girl added this to my room. It's so darling, and it came home with me. I can't stand buying pants, and I can see the pockets lining and my darker skin through the fabric. I don't consider that high quality. Yeah. This dress overwhelmed me. I'm 5 feet tall, and the print and material just took over. I feel like an Indian goddess in this dress. Lots of swing onto it. So you see, depending on the context, these neutral statements could either be positive or negative. Yeah. So that is what makes analysis an important exercise, especially if you followed through Eunice's and Brian's class, the previous class, where you're looking at some jacket similarities of text. You could want to dig deeper, combine what you learned in previous session with some of this, and dig deeper to find out why exactly TextBlob is considering this to be neutral. But according to me, a statement like looking forward to wearing this on a beach day, it's something positive. It's like something good, not neutral. So you might want to pick statements that are considered neutral and look at what differentiates them. That is exactly what Eunice and Brian did in the previous session. So if you did not, if you are not in that class, please access the link and access the notebook that Brian already shared, and get to understand why some of these statements are considered neutral. And yet, according to me, some of them are either positive or negative. What is it that is hidden? And when you start probing that way, you start understanding the importance of text analysis. and the role the machine plays in making its own decisions. And by that understanding, then you can come up with some very good solutions to do something that is out of this world. All right. Now this code is the one that we are just listing through the negative polarity. We are using TextBlob. Yeah. The polarity. Okay. And let's play. This one here is just to display the ones that were picked and as negative. This one is we are displaying them. Okay. This is what I was explaining earlier. You look at the statements that TextBlob is telling you this statement is of a high positive polarity. This one is of low negative polarity, and this one is neutral. But when you read the statement, you might come across a statement that has a positive word in it or a negative word in it, and you might think that this one should actually be negative, or it should be positive, or it should be neutral. Further probing using certain techniques, like now looking at the Jaccard similarities of some of these texts, looking at what counts, looking at the frequency of some words in statements would give you a hindsight on how the machine is making its decision. Yeah. So if, for instance, very disappointed, this is outrightly negative. If we look at, there was a statement here with loud. Okay, we'll come to that. Yeah. Okay, I've mentioned quite a lot of things. Before we get into now how TextBlob, some of the fancy things we can work with while using TextBlob. I mentioned polarity. I've mentioned the range within which it is, and it's basically the strength of, think of different poles. So something can only exist south or north, or it can be one end or the other end. Na hapo katikati. So polarity is a measure of, in this case, within this context, how strong is that sentiment? If it is so strong enough, then it is positive. If it's so negative, strong, okay, strong can be two extremes. It could either be a positive or a negative. So when it is a positive value, then that is a positive sentiment. When it's a negative value, like -1 or -0.9 or -0.8, then that is a negative. If it's neutral, it's hovering 0 point something. Yeah. And it takes -1 to 1. Subjectivity takes values between 0 and 1. And if subjectivity is basically comparison of a fact or fiction. So, or let me not use fiction. It's a fact, or it's objective, like it is a well-known fact, or it is someone's opinion, like it's opinionated. I gave an example there. Dogs are mammals. The value you get, it's more of an objective opinion. And if you look at dogs are better than cats, that is someone's personal opinion. So if it has high subjectivity, it means it's it's highly opinionated. Okay. Yeah, that is what subjectivity means, and polarity. It's all documented on the notebook. And I want us to now go through some of the text that I picked and now start using TextBlob. Yeah. In terms of what some of the things that TextBlob can do. So far, the previous sessions is a build-up. Yeah. Some of these things I'm not mentioning them because they've been covered from previous sessions, especially the one that was run by Eunice and Brian. And TextBlob was not covered. Okay. And we've just noticed TextBlob is just one of the tools that we can use to do text analysis and text manipulation. Now I picked 3 or rather 4 statements The details and colors are exquisite. Stop hesitating and get this dress.
Pardon?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I want to know why can't you use the entire data set? Why just picking like 4 sentences?
Oh, you can. The reason why I picked this is for easy explanation, but you can actually manipulate and get some of these answers for the entire data set. So this is more of a simpler way to explain some of the concepts that I want to explain. But there's nothing, you can actually use, you can write scripts to use the entire data set, especially when you want to do now classifiers using, when you're using classifiers using TextBlob, it's somewhat similar to when you're using classifier using scikit-learn. So it's just a way I've picked to illustrate some of this concept. Nothing is preventing you from working with the entire data set. But I'll show you, I think in this notebook, do we have an entire data set? No, for this entire, if you're working with the entire data set, let me show you how you will make the changes. We've actually done it. You see here, for instance, you're calculating the subjectivity. You're creating a new column, calling it subjectivity, and then that column will store the subjectivity of that text. Remember, so this review text is the same one that we've manually typed here. So we are getting that review text, and against that review text, we are mapping its subjectivity. So that is how you work with it when you're working with the entire data frame. At the end of the day, you'll have a data frame that transitions from this. Look at this data frame. It has only clothing ID, age, review text, rating, recommended industry, positive feedback count, division name, department name, class name, a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns, basically 9 features, to a total of, let's see this one. We've added 3 more columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, the review. So when you want to work with it as an entire data frame, we've even add another one, word count as well. So it will tell you, this is how you work with the entire data frame. It will tell you, this statement, it has a polarity of 0.01, yeah, and its subjectivity is 0.38, and its review length, it has 500 review length, and it has 98 words. Okay, so you're looking at a single statement. So if you want to work with the entire data set, this is how you do it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. So we pick the individual statements as a way of to illustrate the concepts that you're going to work on. I created 4 texts, and each one of them. And when creating a text blob, there are things that you see as it stands here. It's a string. This one is a string. But what you want is a blob. And that blob is a text blob. So a blob is just an object that inherits the features or the capabilities of the library TextBlob, meaning you can do manipulations to it. I will show you. You take that text string and you're able to do manipulations to it. Okay, so we have subsequent blobs. So we have 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and each one of them for these statements. Yeah. So the first one is in a blob. Are you able to list all the sentences? So you can check this if one blob had several sentences or one paragraph, you can actually list sentences. And this is handy when you want to do analysis by sentence, or if you want to, the same way you can do analysis by words, where you tokenize them and do analysis, you can also decide to choose to view your data by sentences for whatever reasons. Now all right. Now those sentences, we have 2 sentences. Now you can split it into tokens. Yeah. So in the previous session, I think Eunice and Brian was able to split the data into tokens when they were doing Jack and similarities. This is how you call it in using a blob. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. For other libraries, you can use word tokenizer. Yeah, when you're using an LTK library, there are certain tokenizers that you use. Yeah, for TextBlob, this is how you do it, pretty straightforward. Now, once you have your blob, for example, this one, that's 10 sentence. Now, this sentence is stored in a blob. You can choose to determine the sentence, the sentiment of that sentence. You just call the dot sentiment. That's a beauty, and you will get the sentiment of that blob, of that string. Yeah. Now, like I mentioned earlier, a sentiment has 2 things: the polarity and subjectivity. Yeah. So the polarity is 1, subjectivity is 1. That means it is highly opinionated, and the polarity is a positive one. So when we look at this sentiment, the details and colors are exquisite. Stop hesitating and get this dress. Yeah. So this is a personal, a very strong. Yes.
Can you tokenize an entire column using that that method?
Tokenizing an entire. Okay. Tokenize an entire column.
Okay.
Yes, you're able to. Yes, you are. So you see, for as long as, for instance, if we take this, we will definitely start with this. We will combine for that cell. For that cell, we take this value. Let me comment it out here. So the equivalent of this would be clothing data df. You replace the value there. Yeah. So it could be review text. Yeah. Let's call it blob. We are giving it a new value. This one will be equals to, we do text blob. Yeah. And we put the clothing data df. Yeah. We get that text for the review text. That is the text we want to convert into a blob. Yeah. So when converting into a blob, since we want the tokens, in this case, it's already a blob. So you come to the end and then you dot tokens. Yeah. We can try out this and see what comes out. Yeah. Let me do that. Let me remove that code. I bring it up here. So we don't have, where did we add the tokens? Sorry, where did we add the other columns? Here. So from our sample, let me do, for the sake of, let's do sample, let's do 2. This is still long. Yeah. So in this case, we don't have a text blob column. But now, if we want the text blob column, we can say, let's call it text blob tokens. Yeah. So we do that. This is the review text that we want to do it. We want to tokenize. And then we run this and we have an error. Init must be string, not pandas code series. Let me just do something. Review this is a string TextBlob. Then go to tokens. Let's see. Let's go step by step. We come back there and see this one. Clothing. String. Or dot. We have another. We need to change it to as type string. As type str. Format type text. We need to convert this to text. We'll need to write, we'll need to write a function, something similar to this, and return a string.
Maybe could you probably function to go through each row
And create a token.
Yeah, and create tokens for per row. But now that's expensive in terms of.
Okay, let's
not the most efficient way.
Yeah, let's do that. I was trying to avoid it, but let's do that. Where is it? Here. We remove this. View text. Create. Return. So what we will do, text string equals to reveal text. Just want to see first what this would do. Let's see that. Indents.
Means pairing of review text.
An indent text string. Create that. Indentation.
Return. How many?
Sinafai kwetu moja. Python is very sensitive on
indentation.
Yeah. So what we will do, let's try and first see if we will be able to call that function using this. We had this function, we see what it will echo. We do that. This time we are creating this. And then we are checking for each value. So we have the string. Here is the string. Yeah. So we have the text string. Now in this string, we want to convert it to token. So in that case, you see right now it is a string, so it's not a data frame anymore.
It's not as serious, yeah.
Yeah. So let's change that, and then that, and it's still failing. We need to find a way. Okay. Just a minute. It is okay. Okay, let's see. It's still returning a series. There is a function for Python, TextBlob. We need to do a map. Okay. Let's see. Let's do this. This one. Instead of this function, let's copy paste these. This will do. So this review text, TextBlob, and then the text. Dot sentiments. Dot. So here. Tokens. That should work. So let's remove this. Let's remove this. So it's going through the entire data set and creating the tokens. It is done. So if we do sample of this, sample 2, then we come across there. You see the tokens are created. This is the first token. Was the second, really, excited, that. So it's separated by commas. Here, this is a statement, and these are now the tokens for for the entire data set. Dennis, is this what you're asking? Sorry?
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
just while we are still on that topic, would you kindly explain a little bit about the lambda function?
Yes, I was just about to do that. Now, this lambda function, it's instead of, you see, the first attempt we made was to write a function that we would call, yeah? But there is a way you convert a series and pull out a specific text. I couldn't remember that, but I noticed that lambda is just a short form of a function that you can use within your data frame. For example, this is the data frame record. So you want to apply in each of all these review texts, you want to apply a certain function. Yeah, this is just another way of applying the function. The first one is using this one. You're calling the method directly. The second one is using a map pandas function. And the lambda, what it does, this is when you extract that text, it is stored in text. Yeah. Then you take that text, the content of that column, you create a blob on it. You create a blob, and in that blob, you generate the tokens, then you return. So this, the output of this is going to be token. Yeah. And then since the output of this is token, it will be passed and stored here. So what this means is for each of these records, create an output and generate tokens. So the way you're generating these tokens can either be through an external function like we attempted the first time, but I'm not so sure with how to make a series to be text and extract the text from it. This one makes it shorter. Lambda functions are normally easier to manage and use. You use it within your data frame cell. Does it make sense? Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So for any other person, I think it would be a good thing to read more about Lambda and where it is applicable. That is how you should be learning. You come across a term that you're not aware of, you now move forward and do more research and be comfortable with it. Yeah. Okay. So that I was illustrating the tokens here, there. Okay. All right, let's scroll down. Let's scroll down to where we were at. No, I'll go to Peter. Yeah, now we have polarity, subjectivity. And for each of these statements, remember they are different. Let's look at this one, review number 2. Review number 2, what was the text? Review number 2 was, try this on install, was ill-fitting and sheer. This, according to TextBlob, is neutral, yeah? When you look at the polarity, review number 2 here, the polarity is 0, subjectivity is 75. It is highly opinionated and it is of neutral sentiment. Okay, so now you might be wondering how and why this is important. And one of the use cases we can apply this. The biggest nightmare of NLP is tagging and labeling, especially now when you're using sentiment analysis. If you could write functions that mines, like now Brian has a script that actually pulls data from Twitter, pull all that data and write a function that creates the polarity of those sentences, with whether or not they're accurate, but you'll have a starting point that you can actually iterate from. So the first instance will give you a certain level of confidence. For each of those statements, you'll have already tags. You'll have positive, this is negative, this is positive, this is negative. And then you can now iterate and build on it. Yeah. So TextBlob comes in handy, especially when you don't have labeled or tag statements. You can write a function that quickly gives you that label. And then you proceed with your analysis and you proceed with your prediction given a statement, right? Other things you can do from using TextBlob is extract specific letters from string, convert strings to uppercase, lowercase, concatenate strings, and then using the same blobs, I want to showcase that. So from this blob, I've extracted the first string, and this is between the 4th index and the 10th index. So if you look at string 1, review or 00 blob, review 00 blob is for review 00. This one, and the string is review. The details and colors. So I extracted this string here. So you can extract the string detail, and then I use the same one, a different blob, extracted a specific word and converted it to uppercase. Yeah. And then for concatenating, I pulled this one, tried this on install with this one, received this product, and I concatenated them. So these are some of the there is a complete documentation on TextBlob. You can go and find out how much you can do it. I picked this as just samples of how you can manipulate strings and text using TextBlob. You can tokenize using TextBlob as well. And if you wanted to return explicit, remember the return tokens in our function, in our map, it's a list. Let's just go back. I'll show you. Yeah. What has been returned here is a list. So for you to use it, you'll have to do a bit more in terms of extracting the specific words, or even maybe write another function to remove stop words, or remove even the brackets and continue. You can work with that. Or you could wrap this up in a function and have it in text strings, like now the individual tokens. This is not a list. Yeah. So you can return something like join words. Joined words. So you see, let me hash out this. Yeah. So this one, it's like you have now your tokens. It depends on now how you want to store it. If you want to store it as a new column, there's so many ways. You write a function, wrap it up, and return it to within the data frame, or make your changes. Okay. All right. The same thing you can do to this. This is just a way of helping you to tokenize your data. Another thing that we had mentioned was noun phrase. We have our English vocabulary is created of so many parts of speech. One of them is nouns. We have nouns, we have verbs, adjective, prepositions, so many. TextBlob also helps you identify this, and depending on what you want to do, you can now manipulate or make a decide to do what you want to do with that after extracting it. Now, to extract the noun phrase, the key thing here is you need to have a blob. Yeah, and this blob, remember this function, the same way we've added we've added a column in our data frame that has all the tokens as much as it's in a list. We can write and wrap up this function so that we have a column that only has nouns. Yeah, it has nouns for whatever reason. Normally we have reasons for exploring. This is within your space. For whatever reason, if you want to store them and see that now the nouns in this text are this, the adverbs are this, the adjective, or this sentence does not have a noun, it does not have an adjective. If it has, this is what the noun is. Okay. Noun phrase extraction is as simple as using now the blob to extract the nouns, and then you print the noun phrase. Yeah. There you go. Print noun phrase. It doesn't have a noun phrase. So the first one, the second one, it also doesn't have a noun phrase, but this one, it has a noun phrase. Love can mean more than one thing. So I was assuming love is considered to be a noun here because you can attribute it to an individual. You can say something like "Hey, love," or you can say "I love this." So it means it takes different meanings. Yeah, duster is a noun because it's like it's in reference to an object. Okay, so those are some of the interesting things, and noun, pronoun, preposition, adjectives. Those are things that you will be familiar with when you play around with TextBlob. We have a list of parts of speech, which is next. You'll have them in this notebook. So if you want to, on the next statement, try it.
Pardon, Ayub.
Yes, yes.
Before you get deeper into the noun phrase, there's a part where you said you can use TextBlob to extract letters from the strings. Please just go up kidogo.
Characters. You can also do letters and characters. Yes.
So how do you specify that you want to extract the characters or the words?
Okay. So if you want to extract characters, this one is just if you had narrowed down to a sentence and you want to check the sentence. For example, this is a sentence. Yeah, it's a blob. This blob here is the first sentence. If you do from 4, if you do from 4 to 5, you see. So it gives you a character of that blob. So you could write a function in which these ones, depending on how advanced you get, this could be you could write a function and filter this blob using either n-grams or iterate through, checking the presence of specific words, and it returns. So this the starting index and the final index becomes dynamic depending on whatever it is that you're doing.
Whether to the number of words or the number of letters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, very good. All right, now when you go back to tokenization, noun phrase extraction, we've extracted the nouns, and then we come to parts of speech tagging. POS is parts of speech tagging, and TextBlob rides on 2 taggers, pattern tagging and NLTK tagging. And we have several, like I mentioned previously when we were starting, we have several tools that are used in NLP. We have Stanford Core NLP, we have NLTK, we have TextBlob, and we have Spacey. So depending on the one you're using, the capabilities are different. NLTK, the TextBlob has 2, and there is an NLTK tagger within TextBlob. I had mentioned that TextBlob is a lightweight library written on top of NLTK. NLTK is very, very expansive. You can use pattern tagger and you can use NLTK tagger. And when you're tagging, you can actually specify which one to use. I'll show you guys in the next cell. So apologies, I stopped copy pasting for a while. I'll share this notebook. For those guys who gave up, I'll share it so you guys can actually follow through, all right? This cell actually shows you the parts of speech of any statement. Yeah, conjunction, most of them here, if you're a linguistic, maybe you'll resonate very well with it. For me, I understand very few, very few of them. But when you're doing NLP, you'll be forced to actually get a gist of what it means, especially if you're handling documents that are grammar sensitive. Like now, your output should be grammatically correct. You'll need to understand quite a lot of these things, yeah? But if it's for basic classification and stuff, you'll only know a few. And some libraries like Spacey, they hide this. You don't have to do this because entity extraction is very common with a library like Spacey, though you can actually do it with other tools. So depending on what you want to achieve, knowing all or some of this is driven by the objective of your exercise. Okay. Now, general, if you want to use a default pattern tagger, like by default TextBlob works with pattern tagger. If you want it, you don't need to specify. This is how you do it. So for that blob, remember we are working with blobs. So for that blob, after a blob is just a text, you've exposed that text, you've converted text into blob using TextBlob. So for that blob, you're generating the tags and then printing them. So for each of those words, this one is clearly a determinant. This is a noun. This is, CC was coordinating conjunction. Yeah. This is an adjective. Yes. Someone
No,
said
no,
something?
I'm just amazed that you know it's a whatever conjunction, like the other part of conjunction.
But I'm not an Englishman. Some of these things, you will just know when you're doing NLP. It will become very easy. You can actually sit into an English class and start correcting people. That statement is wrong by default. But yeah, those are some of the added advantages of learning NLP. Automatically, umeanza kuwa good in English. Anyway, so this is an adjective. This is how you list them. And then I was actually short of plotting. You can actually plot a tree. Excuse me. It's called a tree bank. I didn't plot it. Maybe that one you guys can take home. You use an NLTK tagger. This one is when you're using an NLTK tagger. So you import from TextBlob taggers, import NLTK tagger. And if you wanted to use a pattern tagger, that is how you do it. But by default, you don't need to, because by default, it's using pattern tagger. And then you create an object, a blob object with the tag. You pass in the text. Remember, this is where we stored our text. And then you specify the tagger. If you want to check what other thing you can specify, in a text blob, you just need to type Shift Tab twice. Let me close this. You put the cursor after the comma, you hold the Shift and double tab. Yeah, this shortcut will come through. And you can now know, you can actually pass tokenizer. You can pass, this is what you've used. Tokenizer, we have word tokenizer. You can also specify analyzer. Analyzer is like now when you're doing classification, naive Bayes, you can specify, you can play around with some of these. You can play around with some of these properties and find out, and the descriptions are down here. Yeah. All right. So that is just a tip. And then you list them. When you list them, it will be side by side. The word that the sentence is on this side, and the parts of speech tagging is on this side. Yeah. Okay. Using pattern tagger, it's the same thing. Now, word inflection and lemmatization. Inflection is just a way of making plural or singular if there is need for you to do that. So there's some words that appear in plural, and you might want, for whatever reason, to convert them to singular. And that is close to lemmatization. For whatever reason, you might want to choose one against the other. Lemmatization is you're reducing it to the root form, and you have to specify a lemmatizer, let me call them, that you're going to use. It's just like stemming. Stemming is also reducing it to its root form. A word like running would be reduced to run. The difference between stemming and lemmatizer is a lemmatization reduces it to a proper noun. Yeah, it's similar to this word's inflection. For stemming, you might find that there are some words that it reduces to its root form, but when you look at the dictionary, it doesn't exist. It's not a proper noun. So it's probably a short. There are instances when you come across that. Okay, so that is the difference. And when you want to singularize, you just use the word singular. When you want to plural, make it plural, you use the word pluralize. Pluralize. Kama ulimi yako ni mzito kama yangu, usiseme hiyo word. Don't try. Sema that word. We get away with it so much. Anyway, hesitating from the word hesitate. Do we have such a word? Okay, dresses from the word dress. Now, lemmatizing, if you want to, like this word, disappointed, you want to reduce it to its root, the word is disappoint. Okay? N-gram. There is so much. I think Eunice and Brian, you guys are planning to do N-gram analysis and visualization. I'll leave this for you guys to do it maybe next time. I think it was in your pipeline. I just thought of bringing this up. N-grams is just looking at that sentence and looking at a combination of two or more words. It will most likely make sense. For instance, the details and colors are explicit. So if it doesn't make sense on 2 words, you can choose 3 words. But when you choose 3 words, there, the details and colors. And colors are explicit. You see that this one, when you look at it like now in 3 words, it gives something. It gives a combination that have some weight. Get? So you could split your text into n-grams and then you do analysis. There are several techniques. One is there's a way you can use it in something called chi-square, but forget about that. We will cover that in subsequent sessions. This session was just to show you how you split into what n-grams means and how you do it and why it is necessary to do it. Why it's necessary to do it is you want to see which combination of words makes or extracts some meaning, right? Now, spelling correction is if you had a word that was misspelled, you can actually use TextBlob to correct them. So if someone wrote a composition and you want to mark it, you can write a script marking composition, spell checking composition. So if you are only awarding marks based on the spell check, then it will take you less than 10 minutes to mark maybe 400 compositions, depending on the script that you write. Some fancy stuff you can do. And if it was summarizing text, which is the next, I extracted this text from our meetup description, quite a lot of stuff. But this is not the actual NLP text summarization. I thought this is just very, very basic, just an overview of what it means by looking at the nouns. What that description is about, we were just looking at the nouns, yeah? So for each of those words, let's tag them and check out for nouns and display those. So it's telling you this text is about communities, businesses, targets, days, yeah? So it gives you a rough idea of what that description is about, yeah? Okay, language detection. You can also detect the language, but TextBlob supports very few languages. The one that is of interest is Swahili, but unfortunately it's not there. If you guys attended, for those guys who are in the Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, I think I did a classifier on detecting languages, but it was just a basic classifier that detected either Swahili language or from English language. You just tag your statements and then build a classifier. Just that, okay? When if it is in the library, you can actually now convert some text to to French or French to English. So if you had a document that is written in French and someone wanted you to convert it to English, you just take from TextBlob and write it and tell them I've finished, give me 20,000. And you did less than 2 minutes to do your conversion. But nowadays you have Google Translate, they will probably do that. The same thing, you can convert it to German. Yeah. Text classification using TextBlob. Now, this one is, I wanted to explain some concepts just before we go to scikit-learn. Yeah. The same way you want to pass training data and test data, you can choose to select the range from the data frame. Most of you guys who have started working on text classifier know how to go about this. For those guys who are yet to do that, I thought it as a good intro, because the next class after I think the next class, Eunice and Brian will take us through the modeling. You'll see how this translates in scikit-learn, if at all they're going to use scikit-learn. So basically, training data is a set of text that you will consider for your classifier or your algorithm to understand that this kind of statement is a positive one, this one is negative. So when you look at this text, this string here, that is the first column, and this is the second column. This is like a data frame that has two columns, the statement and the tag. The tag is either positive or negative. Like now, this one here is negative. And then the test data is the one that you will use to test your model. When you test your model, it has some metrics output. So it will tell you how your model is performing. Okay. And in TextBlob, we have classifiers. Yeah? So this classifier, let me scroll up. This classifier is generated from TextBlob. So here is where we are getting the classifier here. From TextBlob, import classifiers. So classifier, it has several. We're going to use naive Bayes and decision trees, but now for this illustration, I just did naive Bayes, and according to them, our model is 100% accurate. This is bound to happen because the data set is so small. It's very, very small. How many records? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So this is for illustration purposes, and it can never go to production. It won't work. A simple way of creating another classifier is decision tree classifier. So if you want to do the accuracy, it's telling us it's 100%, but we can't use it. And there are some additional information about these classifiers from TextBlob. So if it will tell you, this one is to basically specify, we can change this to tell. It tells you, it's looking at certain words, yeah, and giving them weight. If you see the presence of this word, it is most likely to be a positive or negative. So for example, if you see the presence of the word is, then it is most likely to be a negative. You see, if you see the word a, sorry, it's most likely to be a positive. If you see the word a, it is most likely to be a negative. Yeah, so those are some of the sentences, and you can actually now pull through and check out the statement and validate this analysis. When you're looking at text analysis, well, you'll have a data frame with a lot, but there are times that you're called upon to look at individual statements and look at what could be contributing to the similarities or even the differences, especially on words that I would say are overlapping. And this happens a lot. For instance, if you're looking at, I couldn't use a different example, or rather, let me see. Yeah, in the previous class, I gave an example of in real estate. So I'm looking for a 2-bedroom house worth, no, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom house and my budget is 7M. That is similar to, it's similar to, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom house and my budget is 20K. It is similar, but the board needs to understand one is for sale and another one is for rent. If you do some similarities, some analysis on such text, there is an overlap. There is an overlap in terms of meaning. So the decision and classification of those two sentences, together with other similar sentences, would give you some. It will give you some better understanding when you dive deeper and look at statement by statement instead of using an entire data frame. So unlike other machine learning problems, when it comes to NLP, there are times, and more often than not, there are times that you're called upon to select subsets of strings and look at them individually. Okay, I had mentioned that we look at the advantages and disadvantages of TextBlob. The advantage, it is lighter and it's written upon NLTK. And it's very, very straightforward when you're explaining concepts, NLP concepts to beginners. Yeah. The disadvantage is it lacks some capabilities that other tools can have. For instance, dependency parsing and word vectors, which are present in NLTK and SPACY. Okay. All right. So this was just visualization that I think I won't go into it. Brian and Eunice did a very good job. I added this here for to show just a library that is really, really good. I'm not so sure, Eunice and Brian, which library you used. I've used Plotly Express. Is that what you used? Eunice, Brian?
Yeah, for most of the, I think some of the plots we used Plotly and others we used the basic Matplotlib.
Ah, okay, okay. You use Plotly Express? Or just Plotly?
Just Plotly.
Oh, you use Plotly. Tell me if
Yeah.
there's a difference. Okay. The one I've used was, there's one library here. It's Plotly, a subset, but it's plotly.express. So with that, you could try and change your code. You see how different it is when you're plotting a distribution. Did you have a distribution plot?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You
we
did,
had
eh?
some.
Okay. So you might want to compare that and this. I'm not so sure if this is all you need when you're doing a distribution. You specify the data frame, you specify the field, you specify the number of bins, you pick a template, and you give it a title. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
So it's in yeah.
I'm saying this one looks a little bit better.
Straightforward. I find it very straightforward. Depending on the visualization, you guys can compare. The Plotly one. Although there is a Plotly and this one, there isn't so much difference. But I found it really, really easy because I know even you guys, when you're pointing, it has some pointers as well.
Yeah.
That is an attribute of Plotly. Yeah. So the previous session has a very, very good visualizations. I thought to add this for you guys just to play around with it. The notebook will be available and you can advance. Before I conclude, there are other things that were covered as well in previous class. Tree map. Maybe you guys would want to plot a tree map for this data. And then n-gram visualization. I think you guys, Brian and Eunice, you mentioned it's in the pipeline. N-gram analysis and visualization together with modeling. I'm looking forward to that session. And then I'm not so sure if you guys have done Dash. You could use, you could explore how to do dashboards, NLP dashboards using Dash. If you get the time, I know it might be something new. If you get the time, you could plug it in. If you don't get the time, then we could schedule another day where we could explore Dash, building dashboard using NLP dashboards using Dash. So this one is just an interactive dashboard. You see the way, if you've ever interacted with Power BI, something similar, but now for NLP. Very, very interesting. And that marks the end of today's class. I normally wrap at times because of time constraints. Before I move to the next topic, which I intend to take like 5 minutes, and then we call it a night. I want to hear any questions or comments. Was I too fast? Was it too slow? Did you get something? Umetoka bure? Umetoka na kitu? The floor is now open. And I know most people normally like keeping quiet, so I normally go through one by one. Danza and Eriko. Eriko, you started, you joined us late.
Yes, I know. I was actually walking home right now.
Oh, okay. So tutakuexcuse kwa leo. Huyo amesamehewa. Sorry? Okay, we lost him. Brian, what are your comments?
So for
Question?
me, my comments will be, this has been really great, and I've learned a few things. I think there's something that the most takeaway is TextBlob. I didn't think I could use it anywhere, so I've just seen an opportunity to use it. So I'll incorporate it in one of the things I'm working on. Yeah.
Kuna jamaa ana trick. Ameandika TextBlob kwa screen. But it's okay.
Yeah, then another thing, or maybe a discussion we could, or a question or a comment from your side will be how you compare TextBlob to Spacey, because I was looking at Spacey versus NLTK. I didn't consider TextBlob. So how does Spacey compare to TextBlob?
Spacey is actually superior. Look at this. I'd shown this. Huh? So it is Spacey in terms of obfuscating, like now hiding the nitty-gritties. You know, simpler way of achieving the same task. You could use Spacey. It comes before TextBlob, and then TextBlob comes before NLTK, because NLTK is really raw. It's really raw, but it's a very, very good. It's a very, very good library. Very, very expansive. So TextBlob gives you. TextBlob gives you a lightweight. But in terms of speed, TextBlob is slower. Spacey is faster. You get, yeah, Spacey is faster, then TextBlob, then NLTK. But because NLTK is low and really, really expansive, it is slow. I've built models with NLTK, and yeah, the slowness in terms of response. Contribution-wise, when pickling, a model, I'm yet to try it with others, but my experience is a model that I use, for example, I wrapped it on using I wrapped it using SVM. It's actually an SVM classifier, support vector machine. And the response, it's like around 12 seconds. You see, for a real-time model, that is too much. 12 seconds is a long time. So there are so many things that contribute to the slowness of a model. I would believe that the tools that you use is one of them. Unpacking, packing the pickle file, extracting the understanding. Yeah. So in terms of speed, that is how I would rate them. Entity extraction is pretty easy with Spacey. Entity extraction. So depending on what you want to use, you can even combine both of them. You can even combine all of them. For example, what we discussed with you yesterday about tagging. You could use TextBlob and come up with your own tags through a script. Once you use your tags, you use an LTK now to build to do your NLP tasks, and then you use scikit-learn classifiers to build the model. And if you want to extract now the individual names, you could use Spacey to extract entities from that text. So it depends on what the task that you want to do.
Yeah.
All right. Any question? Any other? Am I require to the next person?
Okay. A comment on the chat. We used PX, but we didn't use the templates. So I think that's why they're looking very different.
Oh, you didn't use the templates?
Yeah, we didn't use the templates.
Okay. So you noticed how to check the functionalities. Like you just come here. There's so much you can use. There's so much. Yeah. So it makes it really nice. Okay. Any other?
Yeah. I think that's enough from me.
Okay, cool. Eunice, Eriko, I think bado alikuwa anaenda home. Eunice, you also joined us a bit late.
Yeah, sorry, I joined late, but I had to join hata kama ni late bana. Yeah, na nimepata, I've gathered a few things which I think they're very important that if I missed, manze, yeah, ingekuwa mbaya. So actually, Brian ameuliza some of the questions that I wanted to ask about the difference between Spacey and what we've just used, the TextBlob. So now may explain. So I think I just need to read further about it to know when to use what. And then I wanted to ask a question on the translations. You see, the TextBlob has one of the functions you could translate, as you said.
Yes.
So just as Google Translator. So there's a project that we did, and we were translating the English version of a survey to different languages. But now using a software or using a library to translate, you actually lose the meaning of the word, the semantics.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, do you think there's a way you can be able to translate the language and then check on the semantics so that it is not translated word by word? Yeah, so some input on that. And yeah, just answer me and then I'll proceed.
I think with translation, that is, you see the way we are looking at NLP sentiment analysis. Translation is another area that based on its techniques. I don't know if you build the model for translating or you use the existing models, because existing models, including Google and even the one Facebook uses, it still has some deficits. And so this is driven by the optimization techniques and the approach you take when solving it. So this would be a good one to to actually experience hands-on through a project for you to understand. And we have quite a number of good libraries, including Facebook's libraries for translation that are lightweight and easier to learn. And they are all anchored in deep learning neural nets. So I think this would be a space that we could venture in and try and understand what are these things that make it either look stupid when translating, or what are they that makes it look better, clever. So were you using existing libraries, or you did the model by yourself?
Yeah, we used an existing library.
Okay. So probably after delivering a sentiment analysis project, we would pick a translation project, and we will now understand what actually makes them look stupid and what makes them look clever. I think that would be the best approach.
Yeah, true. A comment on your presentation and what you've talked about. Thank you very much for sharing that knowledge. You're so knowledgeable, and we appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. I definitely learn a lot from you guys as well, and I must say that there are things when you explain them, they become clearer. And I would also encourage you guys to step out, and the little or the more that you know, just reach out to me and tell me this is what you've been doing, and I would want to share this knowledge with people. When you share, then you get better, and even us guys who did not know, we get to know. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that comment. We move to the next person. Henry Fungwaro.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Ayub, mnanisikia?
Nakusikia sahi.
Ayub. Okay. I was just confirming because at some point I was dropping you guys, I think because of my internet. Basically, I have a question. My take home has been the use of TextBlob, and actually my question revolves around it, whereby I'm trying to digest what the TextBlob does to the texts, in the sense that we pass, like in our today's case, we've used the raw texts. We managed to classify the text using basically when we were getting the polarity, where we got the positive sentiments, the negative sentiments. So I'm trying to think in a situation whereby we have sarcasm or text with
which is sarcastic.
Exactly. Because basically it's like what TextBlob does is it identifies, okay, let me borrow your phrase or your word if I'm right. It tokenizes the text. Then it looks for the negative words and the positive words. So ikipata more negative words, it classifies as a negative sentiment. Ikipata more positive words, it classifies as a positive sentiment. So I'm trying to think what happens when it comes across a sarcastic text.
Yeah. It's most likely going to be a biased decision. And the decision for the sentiment using TextBlob is highly based on the polarity. So polarity, it looks at a specific sentence, and now checks the inclination of the words within that text, whether it's inclining towards positive or negativity. But if it is sarcastic, I believe TextBlob is most likely to give a wrong prediction. But advanced techniques and advanced libraries would be able to, and you see something like sarcasm, you can actually, if when you're using TextBlob, you could use several techniques to try and identify sarcasm. The other day, the previous session we walked through with Eunice and Brian walked us through Jacket similarity. The question would be, could a Jacket similarity analysis help us identify some sarcasm in text? N-gram analysis, can we do an N-gram analysis and help us? What other technique or combination of techniques can help us to pinpoint sarcasm in text? But with the TextBlob, I believe it's going to do a misfire. Maybe I would want to push this through to you. Yeah, if you could explore, learn about Jacket similarity, learn about how to work with Ngram and text analysis, and maybe come back to us and let us know that this is a sarcastic statement you wanted to analyze, and this is what you found out. I think that would be really, really a good place to start with, so that in the future, when we'll be looking at more advanced libraries that can be able to actually detect sarcasm off the box, then we will appreciate what those libraries do. I think that would be the best. And for you, I think you in the process you really learn a lot. What do you think?
Yes, but I'm trying to I'm trying to think maybe at the process of exploring the libraries to classify. At what point like say now this is it, now this is the one that classifies our text correctly? Because I'm trying to merge actually Brian and Eunice presentation with this one, because theirs they used a data set that had been classified. That is, they had positives and negatives. Now I'm looking at a situation whereby we want to go further to build a model. Before we get there, we are starting from scratch. So before we even think of now what will be doing, we want to first ensure that we've classified our raw text correctly.
Okay.
I'm stuck in what library to use, which one. Maybe if I use 3 different, how will I tell that this one does better than the other one?
Oh, okay. Now I get your point. The best approach is normally do either 3. Yeah. First of all, we have our raw text from Twitter, and then we use the TextBlob to come up with the initial set of tagging. We use the initial set of tagging, and then we use that initial text of tagging to make predictions. Yeah. So it says that this one is positive, this one is negative. That is what is done by the machine. The best and the most effective way of ensuring that the machine is more accurate is what I normally call a human audit, especially when it's like you're babysitting it. So you need to come through and check these statements and do an audit. Out of the 100 statements, how many were actually predicted correct and how many were not predicted correct, and how can we correct? When we correct that with the correct labeling, the model gets better. So unfortunately, since we are starting from scratch, we will just first start with some element and room of mistakes, because what TextBlob does is it's an estimate. It gives an estimate of what it thinks this statement is, and it could be flawed. And a good example of that flawness would be sarcasm. You get? So in our process of human audit, we could now be driven by the analysis that we do to correct that. When we correct sarcasm positively, the next time we train and generate a model, it will be able to pick sarcasm. Hiyo iko sawa? Hiyo nimekupatia mwelekeo ama you're more confused?
It's now better. Otherwise, the session has been good, and it's worth every second that you sit.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a good session. Thanks.
All right. Okay, Devi, over to you, Mombali.
Yeah. So, can you hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, so just I want to say that I learn every day, and thank you so much. I hope we'll get to do our projects, many projects, so that at least we can apply whatever you are teaching us. But I really appreciate for you making time for us. Thank you.
You're most welcome, David. Good stuff. I'll just say a comment after, just before we close about the project. We go to Samson. Sam, over to you.
Yeah, so mine is just thank you because I'd already started learning on NLP, new in this. So I think I was exploring on TextBlob. Thank you that you've almost answered everything that I had. Like I had some difficulties in some areas, but when you were explaining and showcasing on what TextBlob does, I think you answered all my questions. I just want to thank you because this will really help me. Yeah, thank you for your knowledge. If we go with this, I think we can achieve more.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Thanks, Samson. Silas, veteran. Let me say something about Silas. Before I say, Silas is one of the guys who really bugged me. Anipati breathing space, because I always encourage people to do that. So a week I always Peter Bila Silas to reach out, and I know there are so many people in the group who does the same. I think that is how the spirit we should have. That's why nimekuita veteran. Uko na majina mingi lakini endelea. Fungua roho.
It's been a long road. From the days that I was giving you space for data science last year.
Yeah.
At least I've tried to get to this stage. Sorry, I'm late. I had family issues to sort out. But I'm learning every day, but being challenged every day more than I'm learning. I'll keep the faith and try and keep strong.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Hii sasa kuna mahali tutasema hata tutaachia Mungu atupatie hiyo nguvu.
Don't worry. As long as you're in a group like this one, I'm so sure what you're going through, someone else is going through, and someone else went through it. And when they hear your cry, they'll definitely reach out to help. So don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff. So. Good stuff. The last one, they know Sling.
The session was good. Learned a lot. Getting confused, actually, but the bottom line, we are gauging something at the end of the day. That is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I stumbled, or I ran into stuff while I was doing something kutoa stopwatch, just a small thing, and zungusha. They actually the function works, so that's a win for me. Though pia bado iko na shida, it goes there too. Yeah, that's it. Nice day.
Okay, good stuff. Dennis is someone else also who reaches out a week ikiisha bila yeye kunipigia simu, najua either ni mgonjwa ama there's something wrong. That is a good thing. There are several instances when you ask me something, the first thing that I always do is try and explain something to you, but I won't walk through with you. You'll struggle by yourself for some time, and then I tell you, ukishindwa nipigie simu. Ukinipigia simu na mara ya pili na kuweka kwa Zoom na tunapambana pamoja and elewa. We've done that with a couple of guys. Some of them are in this meeting, some of them are not in today's class. So I really encourage you guys to have the same spirit. I might not have the answers, but you'll have a second brain. You'll have a second head to think. We will think together and we will find the solution together. Eriko na unumerezi mkono. Haujafungua roho? Okay. Sawa. Ongea. Sorry. I unmuted you by mistake. Yeah, wacha nitoke. So unmute yourself basi. It looks like, okay, go ahead.
Hey, bana, kwani unataki mazuri leo?
Inakasa zile ulikuwa na click unmute, mimi na click mute. So niwacha endelea.
Hadi saa zile imebidi nikimbie ndio ninge kwa net, nilipoteza net hata nikiwaambia. So session ilikuwa fine. It was okay. My question earlier was on Blob. But I think you might have answered, but in the middle of your answer, my internet also acted up. So I'll have to go through the video. Now, another question I have is on pickling.
Yeah, pickling.
Did you already do that? Because I'm quite curious about what really goes around that.
I've not done it in this one, but there is a notebook. I did it for, I think it's even in my GitHub account. I did the way you can pickle. Maybe next time, Eunice and Brian will be doing model in the next class. So the model that they do, we are hoping that we can walk through the pickling and have the model available as a pickle file. I think you'll get to see it. Eunice, I'm not so sure if that was your scope, but if it is not, then maybe after their session, I could now show you guys how to pickle. Eunice, was that part of what you wanted to show us?
Okay, it wasn't part of, but but it's okay if we don't manage to show them that day, then you can pick the next.
No problem. Okay. Okay. So Eriko, don't worry, utajua.
Niko curious kujua hiyo people tunaiplangaje ama
okay.
Awesome. The session was awesome. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The session was awesome. Though halfway nilikuwa nasikia vitu zangu. Hopefully I'll go through the video and also the notebook. Don't forget to share.
Okay, I will share. Ukikwama, try and reach out. I might not have enough time because I'm only able to assist after 5 o'clock. But either way, try and reach out. Maybe I could squeeze in a few minutes if it's not a complex problem. All right. So just to conclude, thank you guys for reaching out. I must say that this is a learning process, and I don't have all the answers, but you can count me as a partner in your studies, a partner who will try his level best to make you understand concepts that you don't understand, and a partner who is also willing to learn from you. So whatever new thing that you learn from your experience, I would also love to hear from you guys, and that's why I'm providing the platform for whoever has something new or interesting to be able to come and teach us. So we look at each other as partners, and for that I thank you guys very much. And it's because of this kind of group work that would make us go to where we want to be. On the project, we have several things that we can do. But I would want us to move in a structured manner. If we stick on a certain structure, we are bound to benefit more as a class than if we focus on different things. Yeah. So for NLP, the first thing that I would want us to walk through until we get to some level of understanding the NLP pipeline is sentiment analysis. Yeah. And that one we are being led by Eunice and Brian. So the objective is to deliver the first model, having looked at the visualization, the analysis, the pre-processing, the modeling, and then eventual pickling and eventually deployment to production. They will lead us through until we finally get a sentiment analysis model that can be used. And then the next one would be, the next project still on NLP, would still be sentiment analysis, but solving a problem. And the problem I would want us, let it make it a bit fun. Out of all these politicians who like making a lot of noise, can we tell who is really positive? We study them for like 3 months, what they've said on Twitter. Who is positive and who is negative and who is not even there? Anaongea January, the next time ameongea ni December. Can we come up with something? That is just one proposal. It could be politicians, it could be celebrities. You guys think, and we could discuss in the WhatsApp group. I know it's a short time, but I believe what most of you guys are saying is we take a project from ground. We look at data cleaning. And since we have a pipeline that we've been working through, we take it all the way until we tell the public, look, this is what we have done and we found it this way. And we can use our meetup, like now the one for Africa Tech, for Eunice and Brian to present and tell everybody what we've been doing, the journey. And everyone, we send an invite and we run a demo day. Yeah, so that is how I would want us to approach. Once we finish NLP, we come back to sentiment analysis. Eunice and Brian will now come back and see, can we do the same thing with now deep learning and neural net? Yeah, and will there be a benefit? And in that process, we will be learning neural networks. We will be learning classification using neural networks, and we will come across quite a lot of deep learning stuff, but using the same problem statement. And then we release another version of the model for our politicians using neural net. Will it be much better? Will it be much better? So that is the approach that I would want us to adopt as an NLP class. So we are all cut out. Regarding other projects, I'll be sharing the schedule for other projects that guys have expressed interest with. If you really cannot multitask, I would highly recommend that you remain focused, especially for the beginners. Don't do several projects at the same time. You'll get a bit confused. Try and do one project to the end, and then after the first project, you could be able to attend 2 classes simultaneously because the concepts are more or less the same. So that is what I would encourage you guys. I'll publish the information on WhatsApp group, and let's remain focused. And if you have friends who are willing to learn NLP, tell them about what we are doing, encourage them to join the class, because through the class we will learn much better. Okay, so 2 tasks for each one of you. Let's think of should we go with our politician analysis as our next project after Eunice and Brian complete their journey to the end, or should we go with any other that you can propose? I leave it to you guys to make proposal in the group.
See, politician ni motive ban. Fadhali you.
It's emotive, huh?
Yeah, you know, even when you're going to go and present it, I don't know. It can be taken out of
context.
No, you see, you're going to present it to a different forum, yeah?
Yeah.
It can be taken out of context.
Yeah.
Then, unfortunately, this is my view, maybe I'm wrong, yeah? But I just wanted to share.
Yeah.
It can be taken out of context, then something else is spun out of it, which the people who actually developed it
becomes biased, yes, against them.
Not only biased, they are biased against them.
I understand. It's good feedback. Let's think through. Those guys who feel this could be a good one, especially for publicity. You see, there is one thing about publicity. It's there is no negative publicity. It's how you turn it around. Look at those people who have been known in social media for all the bad things, and look at how they handled it, and look at how they are right now. You're in a situation where no one knows you. What is it that will make you come out and be known? It's either you do something exemplary, really, really good, that is out of this world, or you do something really, really controversial. Controversial in the sense that people talk about it. And when they talk about it, they know who did it. And now the next one that you do, people would want to hear. So I leave it to you guys. Make suggestions, make proposals, and then together at the right time we'll vote for the project to pick up. And as a class, we will see this project to the end. And the people who lead us will be the one to present us in any demo day. So the person who proposes an idea that will be embraced is the person who will take us through to the end and will lead us in the demo day. That sounds good.
Yeah, sure. It does.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, perfect.
Then you get that politician one. Okay. So you guys, you have a lovely evening. Let's do this again. I'll be working on Saturday's class and publishing the project hopefully within a week or during the weekend. See you guys until next time. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, guys.
Bye.
Dennis. Let me end this one. And then I create another one, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.